Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Blim for this one. Amy is playing Meddling Mage, and she wants to name Asmoranomardicadaistinaculdacar. However, she can't remember the full name of this card, so she calls for a judge. What do you do? First of all, to answer the question, to name a card, all you have to do is provide a description of the card that could only apply to that one specific one you're thinking of. That means that Amy doesn't have to remember all of the letters in this very long card name, and it also means that if you're trying to remember what the specific epithet of the planeswalker you're trying to pithing needle, well, that's fine too, because as long as you can provide a description that only could apply to one specific card, that counts as naming it. I personally would probably accept something like the one card from Modern Horizons with a really long card name, and I'm pretty sure most judges would accept something like the card with no mana cost and a really long card name. Something like that should be able to get you just fine. Judges generally use the same standard for deck lists, which means that you probably are okay if you write something like blue-red fetch for Scalding Tarn. However, be careful, because the standard is that you have to be unambiguous, and there's been a lot of cards in Magic's history. So, for example, some judges might not be okay with blue-white fetch for Flooded Strand, because there's also Floodplain. In a face-to-face game, you can and should ask for clarification if it comes out that a player makes a description that they think is unambiguous, however someone realizes that it might actually apply to more than one card. However, of course, in a deck check, there's not really a good way to do this, and any ambiguity that a judge finds out might be grounds for a game loss. Especially in a game with as many cards as Magic, and a lot of them pretty obscure, it's definitely a possibility that some card you've never heard of could end up costing you. There's a famous story of a player who named Borborygmus with a pithing needle, only to find out later on that that was actually a card from the original Ravnica, and Borborygmus Enraged was just the successor to it. There are plenty of other examples of cards that have similar names to other more famous cards in Magic's history, and those cards have cost people games too. However, there's not really a good way to resolve this. I mean, what if someone actually did want to name Urborg? One other thing about naming cards, which is that it's possible to name any card that you want, even if it's not legal in the format or if it's been banned. So that means that yes, it is possible to name Black Lotus with Phyrexian Revoker, even if you aren't playing Vintage. Finally, before I sign off, I wanted to talk about exactly how naming cards work with a few of these corner case types of situations where it's not immediately obvious. For example, with Meddling Mage, you could name Fire or Ice, but not both Fire-Ice. That's two card names. Each half of the split card has its own unique card name. The same sort of idea holds true for double-faced cards. You could name the front half or the back half, but not both halves combined. And meld cards. You could name either of the two front faces or the name of the combined back face. Flip cards have the same exact rule. You could name either half of the flip card, but not both of them together. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day. And she wants to name Asmoranomardicadaistinaculdacar. Asmoranomardicadaistinaculdacar.